So now we're at the actual site of the ruins, and we'll walk about and see what we can see. Not much is left, but it is preserved. Here you can see fairly thick. Don't know if these were the height of the walls, I doubt it. After standing around looking at the monument for a minute, which is nothing, I saw an elderly gentleman nicely dressed carrying home dinner and asked him about it, and he took me over here and knocked on the door to the caretaker, and he opened up and let me in, so here we are. And I'm hoping that we'll see something that tells us something. For example, notice how similar this looks to things we've seen with regard to the Romans for moving water in a house perhaps, or water drainage for something. All of this would have been probably completely filled with structures of some sort, some archaeological excavation. At one time they thought about protecting it as a tourist site, but that slid away quickly. We'll take a look at these little indentations here. No idea what they're for, but they are curious, if for no other reason, just their dimensions. That you step down here, I don't know. We're guessing after several hundred years. So this was probably a platform of some sort. You can see the far corner down there. It's all eroded to here, I believe. It looks like I'm standing certainly near a wall and maybe even a corner. But there's more ruins down below, a floor. And one has to ask if that was the original grade. I don't think so. What I'm looking for here is the influence of the Inca, and I think you see it right there. Those angular cuts in the rocks and how nicely fitted the stones are. Pure Inca. Now, whether the Caranqui had that technology, I don't think so. I think this represents something that happened after that. In other words, after that, meaning when the Incas took over. We're standing on a floor, but what you'll notice is there's a floor underneath it, which suggests that this structure or site went through several evolutions, or at least two. But the way these stones are fitted, it still appears to be Inca. Inca were only in this country for 100 years before the Spanish got here and dethroned them. It's fascinating to wonder, or to imagine, that we could see the Inca people walking along that walkway there, along the edge of a building perhaps, and then up those stairs and out. And the same with the stairs over there, and perhaps over here. But this may have been more important in through here, I'm not sure. There was something to do with water. But here we see a nice collection of fitted stones, and that's about the piece de resistance in this site. As I did when I was in Mexico and Machu Picchu and all those places, I wondered what the artisan who created, or who finished off these stones and fitted them together so nicely, would have thought if at least this much of his work remained. And if the country is smart, they'll actually go to some lengths to protect this. Here's what these stones were for, or what this narrow space between what looks like a wall and maybe perhaps another wall or a large plaza were. This may or may not be rubble left over from the site for some purpose, I don't know. Now we're up at the far end looking down on the areas that we crossed. Archaeologists can probably make some sense out of the remnants of walls that we see, but there's not much on the internet. Could this have been a pile of stones that the Inca used as a resource? pile of stones that have been worked, were in walls once before. You have to wonder too, like so many places, how much of the stone here was cannibalized, quote unquote, harvested for local construction. And what these were, and whether they're original to that time period, I don't know. These have uncannily modern work done to them. Here we see just the outline of a pile of stones. Doesn't seem to be doing anything unless it's an attempt by the architects to, again, set out stones in the hopes that someday they can catalog them sufficiently enough to recreate some of these structures. Who really knows? Give us a last view across this site. Probably not visited by very many. Certainly no wear spots, although they do mow it once in a while. This is the monument. Impressive, but they don't tell you that the real site is just a half a block away. Job half done. This church is unique in that it has a transept, but only one half of it. A beautiful carved entryway, however. Right across the street from the park. This pretty little park is across the street from my hostel. $12 a night, shared with one other person if anyone shows up. Andriega. But it's El And this is my room. Nice bathroom. Everything's new in here, mainly because this is a brand new hostel, and it's one of two. I think the second one built, but the first one I was in also, and it's new. The view out the back, what's interesting is I can hear a river flowing, and I can't figure out where it is, because it doesn't look like there's room for it, unless it's somehow right below me and part of it's covered.